Welcome everyone to Bounce Off Podcast. I am joined by Josh Carlson, a SlamBall player who took part in every season of the league, now head coach for the Lava in the 2023 season, coming to you live from the brand new SlamBall arena in the Cox Pavilion. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. I'm so jealous that I don't get to play on this incredible court. Just,
have you not even had a chance to have a go on the trampolines?
Oh, the guys have, but I haven't. Like in my heart of hearts, I'm like, oh, I'm the SlamBall player. I should be getting to enjoy this, not these young bucks. But yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay. So as I mentioned off the top, you've been involved in pretty much every season of the league. Way back in 2002 with the very first official one. How did you get involved back in 2002?
So kind of a unique story. I played basketball at a very small Christian college in Arizona. And when I was done, I was trying to go play overseas. So I was going to a bunch of tryouts, and there was some United States leagues coming. They were bringing the ABA back then, and they were bringing a league called USBL. So I went to Florida to audition for a team called the Lakeland Blue Ducks. And when I was there, the guy that was running is like, hey, there's going to be a guy here that's got this new sport called Smash Ball, which was the original name. I don't know if you know that, but they had to change it because the Smash Ball is actually that paddle ball on the beach. There was a naming rights issue. So anyways, he's like, this new sport, Smash Ball, he's looking for players. So I went home, Googled it up, sent him a videotape, and I never heard from him. And I was pretty frustrated because I hadn't got any callbacks on any auditions or tryouts, really. So I called him one day. I'm like, hey, just want to check. Did you guys not like me because I'm too short and I'm white, or what's the deal? And they're like, oh my gosh, we never, classic 2002 response from a young college kid. And they're like, oh, we never saw it. Would you come out here in a day? So I jumped in the car. My parents were supportive. We drove out to LA the next day, and I tried out. And for whatever reason, I think my timing was good. And they're like, yeah, give it a shot. So
what were your initial thoughts? Like, you obviously heard about it, you submitted a tape, but were you thinking this is something that I'd really like to do? Or were you like, this is an opportunity to get my name out there more?
It was more an opportunity. It was like, I just wanted to play. I mean, my whole life I wanted to be a professional athlete. So I'm like, this is a chance. I wasn't good on the tramps. Really, I got lucky. I think just because I was willing to work hard, and I had some basketball skill because I wasn't even drafted the first season. I was a practice player. So I used to spend 6 hours a day between the Diablos and the Rumble as a practice player, just a body. And then when the season started, they were like, we'll put you on the Diablos and you get to play a little bit. So, and the funny thing is, when I left the tryout, they gave me a contract, said, hey, you can come work for us. It's, Warner Brothers, I think at the time who was under, and I got a call from one of the USBL teams like, hey, we'd love you to come play and coach. We want you to be a player coach. And I was like, for some reason in my heart, I'm like, I don't know. SlamBall is the first one that gave me a chance. I'm just going to stick with them. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Did you think you'd be involved this long? As I said, you were involved in 2002, 2003, 2008, and 2012, 2016 as well, obviously.
I mean, no. Well, when it first took off, I was like, oh, this is going to be it. We had such good ratings early on Spike TV. And so there's some, with everything, there's hills and valleys. But no, I didn't know how long it would go. And I'm just so thankful and blessed to be a part of it this long. And Mason, the creator, has been so he's such a gracious and such I don't know if you say honors people, but he never forgets guys. So he brings us back along. I mean, he never had to come back to me 10 years later and be like, hey, you want to go to China? But so I owe him a lot.
What were your initial thoughts on the league back in 2002? Did it seem like a strong operation, or were you sort of like, there's holes here, but at least it's home?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I was so new in learning the sport. For me, it was more like, can I survive? Am I even going to get a job? Because I didn't get drafted, and I was like, oh no, my dream's over. And they're like, no, you can be a practice player. So I was not even consumed with this is going to take off as much as can I just survive? And there were some interesting things early on. There was always talks like some of the TV people wanted it to be more choreographed like WWE, and Mason always pushed back. It's like, no, this is a real sport. So there were some interesting things. Even if we go back and watch the first season, I don't know if I'm giving away dark secrets, but there's one game that's played that they took two halves of different games because it was a blowout. And then they put, probably Coach Hernandez, because it was one of his that he was involved in. And so there was a shot, I think, where a guy gets hit through the glass. It was great for TV. And that was from a different game that was the Bouncers playing I think it was the Diablos. I think Anthony White maybe hit Chris Young, and they both went through the glass.
It's one of the playoff games, because I've been taking a note of all of the best nicknames in SlamBall. And Whitney White only gets called it in that game, but he gets nicknamed the Doorman. And I'm like, that is so good. And it never comes up again.
Well, so that one wasn't Whitney. It was Anthony White. The guy used to call Rooftop. Yeah, so he hit Chris Young through the glass, but that was from an earlier game that was a blowout. So they took that clip and merged in, which, whatever. Hopefully I don't get fired for saying that.
No, it'll be fine. I think it's kind of well known, or at least understood that the earlier seasons were a little bit more cut and paste together so that you guys could explain the sport as well. And now obviously the focus is making it into live. Are you a little bit nervous about that the focus is now going to be this is a live sport with betting options and whatnot?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's some of the great thing about sports is live. I mean, I don't know who likes to watch a tape delayed sport now, unless you're like a cricket fan. You're like, I don't have 40 hours this week, so I'll have to watch over the next 7 days. But besides, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I think that's what with the sport being live and the fact that you can bet on it. I mean, that just makes it all the more appealing to the more people, I think.
Just because you mentioned cricket, what sort of sports do you watch regularly? What are you taking inspiration from when it comes to coaching and SlamBall?
So my dream was always football. Like, I love football. That's my passion. And then basketball. But now, I mean, it's funny. I'm big into, I love golf, which you're not going to draw anything from golf, probably SlamBall, I don't think. And I'm just a sports nut. I mean, I probably listen to 160 baseball games a year on the radio. I just like to listen to I just like to be around sports. So I take it all in. I'm playing pickleball. I mean, what is that? But
that's
I'm old and I think it could be good.
Don't let the SlamBall Twitter account hear that. I think they've got a war going on with pickleball. So.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, I think they're starting something.
Well, maybe I'm going to try to merge the two to put a couple of tramps in the pickleball court. That'll make it really exciting.
Trampolines make every sport better. That's
definitely for sure.
How does it feel to see how far the league's come? You talked about you were just so focused on making it in originally, and now you've been through so many different iterations of it. Now where it is, now that you're in the Cox Pavilion, you're in this purposeful built stadium for the sport. How proud are you? And then just how does it feel generally?
I mean, I'm proud just to be a part of this. It's crazy how far it's come and what it looks like now. I mean, I feel like it was always pro, but now I'm like, this is pro. ESPN's here. There's camera crews. It's killer. It's going to be live. I think your first question was about the evolution of like how far it's come. Like
even like the league structure and things like
that.
It seems you've now got, I don't know if you had back in 2002, but every single player, coach, everyone I've talked to has talked about Rob Wilson's position as like, and talking to players and being their player liaison and stuff like that. Yep. I don't know if you had that in 2002, but hearing so much about him and his position really shows that there's a lot of structure now.
Yeah. Oh, it's so leaps and bounds beyond the fact that we have Pat here, the guy that does Flip a Day on Instagram. I mean, teaching the guys the stuff that they were learning and guys are doing now. I mean, I don't think we were doing that until maybe season 2, and even only a couple guys that do it. Now there's like 7 guys in the first 3 weeks doing the stuff that not Chris, but almost Chris Robbins-esque, the flying squirrel, stuff like that. Guys can do that now. You're like, this is crazy. We never thought about that. And that's all just because of the structure and the way they're teaching guys. Stan was over in China. Stan Fletcher, I don't know if I need to say full name so people know, but Shakes, he was over there in China, I think, for maybe 6 years teaching it. So he was able to bring a lot back what he learned to how to teach the sport. And so now guys are leaps and bounds in front of where we're at, or where we were at that point.
While the training was going on in China, were you involved in the coaching, or was that entirely Stan Fletcher?
All Stan. Mason was very gracious. He gave me the option to go over there, but the first trip to China, I think I had just got married. And so it was like telling a wife, hey, do you want to move to China? I'm just like, no, I don't think I signed up for that. So no.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Talking about your time as a player, I'm going to start with a negative and then we'll go to a positive. Is that okay with you?
Cool. Love it.
I don't think you'll be surprised to hear me say, mainly because I'm repeating what commentary said, you sucked at face-offs. Is that fair to say?
Yes. You mean in terms of defending them or scoring on them, or both?
I believe both is what commentary implied when you're in China. But I was watching a game earlier and you got a nice block. So
yeah. Yeah, so good. Yes, I agree. So I never could jump higher than anybody. So there's no chance I was going to dunk over anybody. On a face-off, if I could beat you to the hoop, that was my way I could get a dunk. So yes, I would. Yeah, fine. I sucked at face-offs. I'm okay with that. I can handle that.
Are they easier to?
The problem was go ahead.
Than they are to do.
In theory, I think everything on paper, you're like, it's a lot easier to tell you what to do than actually do it, because there's just so much timing involved. And I'm not a big frame, so like on the defensive end, if you can just get your body in front of the rim and make someone go through it, it's very impossible unless you jump to the heights of like a Trevor Anderson that can just outweight you. So the technique defensively, it's a lot easier to stop a face-off than to score it, but scoring happens normally more often. Although in the scrimmages so far, the scoring's been way down on the face-offs. It's been like a I would say maybe a 10% success rate, which is kind of crazy.
Is that getting used to the new stadium, or is that just the defense is elite at the moment?
I think it's just the offense hasn't caught up. So everything has been so sped up because it's such a truncated season. And they've done a good job of trying to ramp the players and keep people healthy. I don't think they've just got the reps. So it's a lot easier for the defense right now just to get there, put their body in front of the rim. But we have guys that are missing dunks that are at the rim and they're just missing them. It's not like the defense is making a stop. So that'll probably clean up as the season unfolds, maybe into week 2. Guys will get more reps and it'll be a lot more of the Showtime crazy dunks. So
okay, perfect. I like I said, I start with the negative, I'll move to the positive. When I look at your play as a SlamBall player, I see someone who's really good at distributing around the basket, especially within the tramps, and also someone who I'd describe as a gritty, do everything kind of guy on the court. Do you feel like those are accurate representations of your play?
Yeah, thank you. That's nice of you. Yeah, I think so. I mean, just based on my stature and my athletic ability, like I'm an athletic person, but I'm still playing against guys that are 6'5". They could jump higher than me on the wood floor, and it's not fair that they get to jump on the same tramp I jump on, but that's the rule. So for me to survive, I had to either outwork people, just out hustle them. So that kind of where the gritty came in, and I just always had I think it's a nasty natural that I wasn't really ever fearful of a moment. So I never thought I would get hurt. So it wasn't like to dive after a ball or go into the glass. I never even had second thoughts about it. So
is that hustle, that drive, is that something that you're able to coach into players, or you really just sort of like, I need to let them find it on their own?
It's funny you say that because coming in, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to get players and coach them how I played. But there's some of that I think is just out of survival of the fittest. Like that's what I needed to do to be able to survive. So, but that's kind of how I was as a player in basketball. I just out hustled everybody. So some of it you can coach, some of it's just, natural.
What are some elements, if that's not the thing that you're focusing on, what have you found that you're focusing on more than as a coach?
I think I've really taken on some of the strategic side of it. I really like trying to find the X's and O's in SlamBall and hopefully be able to help evolve the game. Because I think what's going to take the sport to the next level is people seeing it as a strategy game as well as not just like crazy stunts and dunks. Because 7 great dunks in a row is awesome, but at some point someone's like, oh, but there's a coolness to basketball where like there's an X's and O's to this. There's an offense like the Nuggets playing their 2-man game. You're like, this is boring, but it's impossible to stop with the triangle offense that the Lakers and the Bulls used to do. I mean, so there's things like that I think we want to evolve into SlamBall. And so I'm trying to figure that out. I wanted to try to work it from a defensive end, and that's still in the process. And I've got some offensive strategies we're trying, but ultimately you got to let the players play.
Yeah, I think if for anyone watching who's maybe only seen the original couple of seasons, highly suggest going on YouTube and just searching SlamBall Global. You'll be able to find some of the China League stuff, which is obviously guys who've now been doing it for a while, who have learned different ways to use trampolines to their advantage, use the island to make better passes than just driving constantly to the rim, which I think is what you're talking about. It takes a while to get to that level of finesse, and these guys are all first-year players.
100%. And I think the mob did a great job of like advancing that. Coach Kirsch has kind of got his island focused offense where they're always cutting. The slashers was really get in the tramp and throw the backside lob. There's a couple different strategies. It's like any sport. There's the baseline that work, and then you can kind of build off of that. And Stan has brought in, I think with he was on the Maulers in China. They kind of had almost like a 3-man weave working inside the tramp. It was kind of a cool thing he's brought in. So yeah, there's some evolution happening.
We talked about hustle plays and stuff like that. Is there anyone on your team this season who's shown that capability already? Is there anyone who's like, I'm going to dive on every loose ball, I'm going to do what I can?
As much as I'd like to say yes, I don't know that I've seen it quite yet. I think there's some guys that have shown some grit in those, but the one thing I do like is overall effort's been great. And we got some physical players, man. We had a guy, a Jihad Shockley, that hit a guy in a scrimmage the other day that I swear the guy was out cold before he hit the floor, and then he woke up when he hit the floor. There's a highlight of it on Instagram you can see, and when he gets hit, his body just goes limp as he falls to the floor. So that was kind of fun to see.
I mean, it's good that there's new health and safety protocols, because otherwise it'd be worse. I've also heard that the new rules that have been introduced are sort of reducing the ability to do things like dive on loose balls in the tramps. That was when I spoke to Coach H. He specifically said Josh was really good at diving on loose balls, but he can't do that now, and that was sort of his take on things. Do you think that's a limitation, maybe?
Yeah, I think they purposely changed all the rules so guys like me can't play anymore. No. Yeah, there is. I mean, I think that's the health and safety protocol. They don't want guys diving and bad stuff happening. But I mean, I don't know. When we played, there wasn't that many injuries. People don't believe it because you see the sport, you're like, this is so scary. But in my like, I don't know, the 8 or 9 different seasons I was a part of or different things, I maybe saw 2 bad injuries, and I didn't even see either one of them live in person. I just heard about them or saw the replays. So
Right. Okay. We'll talk about your time in China now. The league moved to China in 2012. What was that experience like for you? When did you receive the call, and what was the move like? You mentioned earlier you'd maybe just got married, which is maybe not the best time.
yeah, I think I got married in May, and then okay, no, I think it was 2012. You said.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't married yet. I went to China, and then I met the girl when I came back. So the second season we went to China, and I just got married, and it was like 3 months later. But yeah, I think Mason called me. Mason was always great. He would call us throughout different times, say, "Hey, we're working on this. There's a chance it could come back. Would you be ready?" And I was like, "Man, I'm ready. Anytime you need me, I'm ready to go." So I don't know specifically when that call was, but it was probably like a couple months before. Said, "Hey, we're gonna go to China. This is all moving fast." That's how SlamBall is. It's always a moving target, and like, be ready to go. So I was always just in shape, ready to hit the ground running. And we flew to China. I think we were out there for maybe 5 weeks, I believe, and did a couple weeks of training camp and then played the games. So
what was the experience like for you from like, did it feel isolated or was it a very nice bonding experience with everyone? Were you missing family back home?
I was bonding with the guys. It was a little isolated. We were we each had our own hotel room, and it's a 12-hour time difference. So it was weird, like being there and being like, it's now nighttime at home. So adjusting to that. And then we were at a college campus, and we'd walk a couple blocks every day to a cafeteria where they provide us food. And the Chinese people there were very gracious and nice. They specifically made us like fried eggs every day because they thought Americans all wanted to eat eggs. So we had our own little section. Because I think in China, most people I believe everyone was eating like rice, something more along traditional what would be for them. And they would make specific food for us. But I found a convenience store, ate a lot of Snicker bars, a lot of bananas, a lot of ice cream bars. That's kind of what I lived on.
You guys were obviously incorporating in the first season, incorporating local street ball players into the league. And then by 2016, Stan had trained a couple of guys to join the league with more experience. Was there a language barrier playing with those guys, or was it all just, it made sense once you were on the floor?
There was a bit. Now, every team had their translator, so we could help. But there's a sport language. So when you get on and you throw a pass, guys just kind of know and they learn how to work off it. That's one of the amazing things about sport is you can almost play a sport and not speak the same language once you kind of understand the flow of the game. It's kind of a unique thing.
There was a couple of guys who really showed promise from that 2016 season. Obviously, you had Kevin Fan on your team who started off a little bit slow, but then built up over the season as he was trusted to do more and more. And then Lu Feng, obviously, who did quite a lot. Were you disappointed at all to see that those guys wouldn't be involved in this new iteration of the sport?
Yeah, it's a great question. And obviously I wasn't on the inner workings of why they couldn't come out. I don't know if there was like logistical for visas and how that would work. But hopefully if this takes off and I think we've got a second year already signed up with ESPN if everything goes well, that we could get guys like that in. It'd be great to bring in that international side those guys are doing and give those guys a chance to come play and perform because they did. Like you said, Kevin, I was going back and watching old China stuff. I'm like, I can't believe how good he got. I didn't even, I had forgotten so many things and he really had picked up. And Lou obviously was kind of doing the chasers and everything that Stan kind of taught. Those guys really became very competitive and strong by the end of their season. So. And
you obviously during that 2016 season had the first ever European player, which is great for me to see.
Yes, which is so awesome. And I was talking to Coach Stapleton about it. And I think he said he doesn't even remember like talking to anybody about Marco coming or how he just was there. He's like, yeah, he just was there. And all of a sudden he's on the team. So we're playing. And it was like no one like reached out like, hey, come here. Like, I don't even know how it happened. You'd have to have you ever interviewed him?
I've not, but I know that he's he used to be very active on Instagram talking about his time in SlamBall. So
yeah, he's a great guy. Obviously I spent time with him there, but then just we've Instagrammed a couple times. But yeah, I would love to hear his story, like how he found out about China, if someone reached out to him, because according to Coach Stapleton, he just knew we were going to China and it was closer than being in America. So he just showed up in China. Like, yeah, come play.
Like a walk-on player. He's just hoping for the best.
Yeah, because the last semifinal game, I don't know if we lost to the Mob, whenever we did, but it was me, Kevin, I think Marco starting, the three of us. Like, we had so many injuries. Scott Campbell was injured. I think he had to separate a shoulder. Bryce Arledge got really sick and went home. So it was like me and two players from different we were the true international team.
I believe you lost Scott in game 1 and then had to play with just the 4 guys you had for the remainder of the league. So
Yeah, I think Brandon Harrison, I don't know if he was playing with us then or not, but then, yeah, we had Del Monte, I think, playing stopper because I don't think Adam was there for that one. But yeah, it was crazy. But we did have one good win. I think we beat the Maulers that Coach Stapleton always tells that story. We beat them with the full true international team. So
Very good. So that was in 2016. What have you been up to, or what were you up to since then, up until the time that you were brought back in again for 2023?
yeah, so nothing unfortunately sports wise. I mean, married, I got 3 kids, 3 awesome girls, 6, one turned 4 today, and then a 15-month-old. And I got really involved in real estate, construction, flipping homes. Still like staying really active. I have a CrossFit set up in my backyard that's killer, like full rig, everything you can imagine, row machines, assault bikes. So I run a little CrossFit workouts in my backyard with neighbors come over. So staying active in sports stuff, but nothing to do with SlamBall. So
I mean, you were still involved in entertaining. You were part of a band. Am I wrong?
well, yeah, good. Wow, you did good research. Yeah, so I played music. Even when I was doing SlamBall, I was playing in a band originally with my brother. And like the 3rd season, how crazy it was, they were so gracious to me. I would go to SlamBall when we were practicing down in Bradenton at the IMG Academy. I would be there Monday through Thursday, and then Friday I would fly out of Orlando or Tampa, fly to where the band was and play a concert like Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, and then fly back in and practice Monday through the week again until the season started. So yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Double duty.
And I want to ask you about the Carlson Crew YouTube channel. No uploads for a while, but is there more still to come? It's still in your Instagram, so I have to ask.
It is. I know. I would love to do it. I don't know if I just need more push from my family. I just got so busy, and then I'm like, I loved doing the videos for a while because I was doing construction with my dad and doing family stuff, and I need to get it going. Maybe this SlamBall will springboard me back to get back to it. So
perfect. Teach the kids how to play. We need more second generation players.
Yeah, well, I got all girls, so we'll be ready for the first SlamBall Women's League.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Talking about 2023, how were you approached to come back to the sport, and what was that process like of, okay, it's a thing, I'm going to be coaching, or did you even consider maybe playing again? What was that process like?
So Mason has family in Scottsdale, Arizona. So I live in the Phoenix area. So I normally see him about once a year because he comes out around the Christmas time to visit family. So he'd come out around Christmas. We went to breakfast. He said, "Hey, we got a lot of stuff happening. I think SlamBall's going to come back. Are you interested?" I'm like, "I would love to." And I think at that meeting, I think he had said, "We're not going to have any former players. It's all going to be different roles. We're bringing in all new guys. We're going to start this fresh." And I'm like, "I would love to be a part any way I can. If I could coach, that'd be a dream. Whatever you could be." So I think early on I knew, although in the back of your mind, you're like, man, I would love to go play again. You're always like, you classic. I'm 44, but I'm like, oh, I can still play. I could do this thing. The classic Uncle Rico thinks he's better than he was.
I mean, Inches Jackson was playing till he was 40 plus. And I know some of the guys that you've got in the league right now are telling me they want to be there for 10, 15 years. They want this to be their sport that they play for the rest of their lives. Yeah.
Oh, and there's a chance. I think if we were consistent with it, I think there is a chance. But I think for the legitimacy of the sport, if we brought back everybody, and I'm telling you, the guys that are all coaching, Jelani, James Lee, like all these guys are in great shape. So we could probably all still play. But if you're like, hey, we've got a SlamBall league of all Tom Brady age guys, be like, no one's going to watch that. We need some young, fresh guys.
Was that a no-brainer to come back and rejoin it? As soon as Mason said to you, I think it's coming back, would you like to coach? Was that an immediate yes? I'm in.
For me, yes, but it has been a little bit of a personal struggle. My wife's had to sacrifice some because with 3 kids, if we were in LA like we always were, it would be a dream come true. She would love to be at the beach all summer with 3 girls, but she's like, Las Vegas is the same as Phoenix. I don't want to be in Phoenix during the summer. So it has been an issue, not an issue, but it's just been a sacrifice for sure. But it's a dream come true for me. So I'm so thankful that she's been willing to sacrifice and make this dream happen.
Wonderful. You've been involved in SlamBall, like we've said, through every iteration and every season. But one thing that has eluded you is a championship, is a title.
Dang it.
Is that a major goal for you this year personally, or is it more just let's hit the ground running and see what happens?
I mean, you always want to win a championship. I'd love to win. I'd love the guys, this first iteration to come back and having the #1 pick, Bryce. I mean, it'd be a great story to win the championship. And yeah, it is a bummer I've never won a championship. What's dumb about it is I was on the Slashers. We lost to the Riders in the championship, which we should have won that game. There's a couple things I could point out that should have happened, but it doesn't matter. We lost. And then the next season, I got talked to go into the Bouncers to play with James Lee and Chris Young because we came really close. Like, oh, we'll have a great squad. And then James Lee gets hurt. And then the Slashers win the championship the year I leave. So the better for the team is to have me and then send me to someone else and you'll probably win the championship. So if the Lava get rid of me after this year, they'll probably win the championship next year.
They can't. You're the coach. You get rid of the players. It's fine.
Well, I don't have a long contract, so.
No, okay. I mean, I know Coach H said to me that the contract's with the league. It's not with the players or the coaches. So would you like to be involved with next season and on further seasons going forward?
For sure. I mean, this is like, I like being around people. I like the coaching aspect is great. Like imparting just who I am as a human, hopefully to the younger guys and seeing them grow. And, you know, some of them already have kids. Some of them are, no one's, I don't think Bryce is married. Is Bryce married? No, I think I've got a couple guys that are engaged. But so now that I'm a dad and a husband, like it's just fun to be kind of not a father figure, but you know, that more of a parental role. That can just say, hey guys, this is life. There's more to SlamBall, but SlamBall is a microcosm of what we do every day as men. So I'm really enjoying it.
On that lack of a championship, sorry to come back to it. How significant was that as a reason to come back? Did that cross your mind at all? Of like, I didn't check that off the bucket list, or not really?
No, I just love to compete, so I could care less. Like, I want to win a championship for sure, but like any chance someone says, "Hey, you could compete," that's probably why I like pickleball. They're like, "Dude, you want to go compete, play pickleball?" Yes, I will. Anything I can try to beat someone at, I will do, whatever it is. So,
what
underwater basket weaving.
What about in terms of a pressure to win? You got the first overall pick, like you mentioned. It was a snake-style draft, so you guys end up with more bites of the apple than any other team. Is there a pressure there that, okay, we've got this opportunity, we have to go out and win? Or it's just do what we can and aim for a title if we can?
I think there's not necessarily a pressure to win. I think if there's any pressure, it's just to make sure the guys are in the best possible position to play great. We want this, we want it, but we need it to look great, you know, live. We can't afford to have the first couple games be like, and everyone's like, all right, I'm not going to tune in. Like, it's important for us to show that SlamBall is a legitimate, fun, amazing sport to watch. And it's going to grow fans because that's more the success rate. Winning this championship would be amazing, but being able to say we're going to play SlamBall for the next 10 years is more important than the Lava winning a championship this year.
Right. Okay.
Just don't let the players know I said that.
You've got other priorities. That's fine. Speaking of players, speaking of the first overall pick, we even saw before we started recording Bryce Marine in the background there. What was it about him that made you select him first overall?
Well, this is one of those classic, like hands down, there was just a no doubt about it. Even when I got the first round pick or the very first pick, I was like, no, I need to search. I got to find that diamond in the rough. Everyone's like, no, Bryce is the pick. There's no doubt about it. And I'm like, no. Like the first 24 hours, I'm like, no, I'm picking someone else. And then like, I'm like, what are you doing? This is dumb. It's obvious Bryce is like head and shoulders above everybody. Now there's been some great advances. Like there's some players that are just playing great. Keith, for the Ozone. I mean, there's so many good players, but we practice with the Ozone every day. So I've seen him up close and he's just like, he's really gone to a next level. So, and that was the tough thing with the snake draft. So, I mean, it was great. We got the number one pick, but then we didn't pick again until number 16. So in my mind, I'm like, actually, I don't know. I would have liked to have Jelani's pick with the Griffs because they were 8 and 9. So they got 2 players in the top 10. But yeah.
Which is nice. You mentioned earlier that Bryce is a little bit shaken up right now. I think that's out there in the public as well. Are we expecting him to be part of the first weekend, or is it still tentative?
No, he's good to go. He's such a professional. I mean, he got a bad ankle injury. When he got the ankle injury, they were like 4 to 6 weeks, which would have put us at week 3 of the games. I'm like, this is dumb. And Bryce is like, Coach, I will be ready for week 1. I promise you. And he did the work. The training staff, you know, we have a pro crew that's got NBA ties. So, Joe and all his crew have done an incredible job, and they gave him work to do every day. And Bryce went above and beyond. And he was cleared a week and a half ago, got in our first scrimmage and got a hit, shoulder to shoulder contact. It was a foul. It was an illegal hit, but it's still it's happened in SlamBall. And he got an AC sprain. But thankfully it was on his left shoulder. So then since that first scrimmage back, he's been out since then. So he hasn't been back on the tramps. Today he was back on the tramps. We have a walkthrough tomorrow, a light scrimmage with the cameras going before Friday night, but he'll play. And thankfully it's his left shoulder, so it's not going to impact shooting, really, anything like that.
Okay, perfect. Is shooting a major focus for you with this new season?
It was. So when I came in, when I kind of presented my case to be a coach, I made a point that I really wanted to incorporate a lot more shooting because I feel from a strategic standpoint, you can't goaltend a shot from the wood. So our theory is to have shots going up, but have someone in the scoring tramp up at the rim every time the ball gets there. Because the offense can grab the ball and put it in like an alley-oop, but the stopper can't do anything. So we've tried to encourage that and implement that offense. But like I said, it's been such a truncated season or preseason that it's tough. Like over the next year or two, I feel like we could really evolve that to a great level. And maybe over the first, the 5 weeks of season, we're going to get even better. But so far, it is an emphasis for sure.
When it comes to Bryce, you've just said everyone told you the obvious pick, head and shoulders above the rest. Mason Gordon's called him the most complete SlamBall player we've ever seen. What are your expectations for him this season, and what sort of pressures do you think this puts on him?
I think he can handle any pressures that's put on him. I haven't put any pressure on him. Besides, I have told him, I said, listen, you've got a target on your back because you're the number one pick. So everyone always wants to be, that's kind of goes with the territory, but that's the beauty. You get to be the number one pick. That's the joy of being the number one. You get the target on your back. Everybody wants that target. For the lava, I need him to go set the tone early and score a couple of baskets early and become the guy that the stopper is worried about. And then he can facilitate because he's a great facilitator. He's great all around. He's every facet of the game. He's great at, like Mason was saying, being complete. But I think he's got to set the tone for us. He can't be unselfish early. I actually told him, I'm like, I need you to be selfish, go score, and then facilitate for everyone else after we set the tone.
In terms of picks and draft picks, your 7th round pick was Alex Dosh. If I've mispronounced that, apologies to Alex. What happened there? Because I know he recently got leg surgery. Was that just injury involved in practice, or was that something totally unrelated? What happened with Alex?
No. That's one of those only like freak things that that one of the only ones I've ever been a part of. We were just doing a drill, practicing full court takeoffs where guys catch the ball, dribble down, go from the side tramp. And Alex had progressed slower than other guys. He was doing better from the top tramp, going from the side. He had just dunked from one side, and then he went to the other side, and he took off kind of high. He felt like he was higher than he was used to. And when he came down, he landed 1 foot, I think, in the bed and 1 foot on the pad. And so it was at a different level, and it was like kind of hyperextended his knee, and he landed with so much force that, I mean, it tore everything. Right. I think every ACL, they were concerned about possible dislocation come back in. They were even concerned about nerve damage and arteries but everything came out great on the MRI, and I heard the surgery was good. So I've talked to Alex, texted him a couple times, and hopefully he's going to come out and join us for a weekend of the games for sure.
I understand he's still keeping in touch with the league and stuff like that, checking into the live streams and whatnot. So it's good to see that he's still involved with things.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I mean, I would have never thought that I was going to draft Alex, but then he was there, and I'm like, he had progressed. He's such a good basketball player, and he was such a good shooter, and we wanted a shooter. So I'm like, this is a no-brainer. And then he was starting to progress. It's so unfortunate that he didn't get a chance to, be here longer. I mean, it sucks. And it's one of those things you're like, do you blame yourself? You're like, do we put him in drills before he was ready? You can always, hindsight's 20/20. I don't know.
But looking at the way the information was presented through the SlamBall site, I might be wrong about this, but it looked as though Festus Shafat was the replacement for him. Is that accurate or no?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. What is it like to get someone like that who, looking at his history and looking at his presentation, could have been a first couple rounds pick? How does it feel getting someone like that as an injury replacement?
That was pretty awesome. I mean, obviously, we felt pretty lucky. I don't know, like the league is supposed to work kind of like a waiver wire, like a normal one would, that you would put someone up. But I think because when we got Alex injured, I think all the other teams had their players. So like, hey, best to come in later. There was a few guys there, and we're like, he stopper size what we lost in Alex, so it just made sense. Like, we'll give you Fest, and we didn't know how far Fest would progress, but I mean, he's going to start for us as stopper Friday night. So yeah.
So he came in a little bit later. Was there sort of a last minute addition of a couple of players to the league? Because I know there was the Super 24, and then there were a couple other iterations of that. Were there people who just were brought in last minute because like, we've missed you, but you might fit?
Yeah, and I think that's one thing Rob's done, because we want to have the best talent on the floor, and it's always kind of an evolving door with that. They brought in guys, and we lost some guys, and they always had guys like, hey, we want to bring this guy in and see. So I think even Coach H, the Buzzsaw, they got a guy maybe 8 days ago that's now their best passer. He came in late, and he's going to play a lot for him. Fest was late for us. There's been a couple guys, because there's been a couple guys that are really talented that have been injured since before the draft, that have been kind of hanging around there. So they were bringing in bodies to fill, because originally we were all going to have more guys than we had on the team for practice bodies.
A guy that I noticed immediately from your roster is Greg Heltz in terms of size, also passing distribution, and a really great shooter. Listed as a stopper. Do you see that as a really important thing for stoppers to be able to do, to spread the floor with distribution and shooting? Or is that less of a concern and it's still all about heading to the rim?
Yeah, so it's funny because I think we drafted Greg originally not knowing. I think we probably listed him as stopper. He's not going to play stopper for us.
Right.
He's going to play a gunner role. And I was thrilled when he was there. What pick we got him at? I don't even remember now. I'd have to go back and look. But I was like the same thing like with Alex. But Greg was like, "This is crazy," because he's so talented. He was so good on. He was just natural on the tramps. He had a couple of things that maybe scared some people away. I don't know, but so I jumped and drafted him. And he's had some injuries. He's had some personal stuff he's had to deal with. I think Greg would tell you he's probably been his own worst enemy. But when he's mentally there, he can be as lethal as anybody out there. I mean, he's going to be a huge catalyst for us, how far we can go.
Perfect.
And he knows that. I've told him. As
a player turned coach, what's been different from that new perspective about the sport?
Well, I think learning, like what we talked about earlier, like trying to implement how I play to players, like not being able to do that. Like I knew when I went on the court what I was going to do. So now it's like, okay, do I have anybody that's going to do what I would have done? No. Okay. Yes or no, maybe not. But how do you put role players in the best places to succeed for what their talents are? Stop trying to do what I would do. Like that's the classic, I know better than you know. It's like, no, I want to coach, but my job is to facilitate and make you guys the best team you can be. So I think that's been a challenge, and I'm still growing as that, because my coaching experience before this, and thankfully they gave me the opportunity. Like I coached 5th and 6th grade girls basketball when I was 23, and I was like Bobby Knight throwing clipboards and chairs, and I'm like, these poor girls, like they don't care. Like the game would be 4-2 after 4 quarters, and it's like if you scored a basket in the first quarter, you might hold on and win the game 2-0.
What's been the easiest part of that transition to behind the scenes, and what's been the hardest part?
Easiest part has just been like I love it. I mean, I like watching game film and then coming up with strategies and statting the scrimmages. I don't know anyone else to stat the scrimmages, but I love doing that stuff. Like I'm a sports junkie. Like who listens to baseball games? But I just love it. And the hardest part has probably been not playing. When you see stuff, you're like, no, you do it this way, do it like this, and you're like, I just want to go show you, make you do it this way.
So you haven't been involved in scrimmages at all, because it's a 7-man roster. If you're playing 4v4, you need an 8th guy.
That's true. Well, so we always scrimmage with other teams. Now, there have been a couple times where early on we jumped in as coaches. Coach Bailey and I would jump in and play offense versus defense on the half court. And I will be honest, there was one time I got in a couple tramps, made a couple good backside lob passes to Bryce and scored. And I'm like, okay, this is dumb. I should be playing. But I told my wife, and that was it.
That's good. You can be proud of that. Okay,
yeah.
One last question for you, Josh. Looking at the Lava and how you are set up right now, what are your team's biggest strengths and biggest weaknesses as we head into not just the first weekend of 2023 SlamBall, but the whole season?
Biggest strengths, I think, is our size and skill. Obviously, having Bryce, Josh Shannon is a big body, and he's so crazy talented. He's so raw, but he's growing every day. Jihad Shockley is super long, and he's got this ability to get to the rim from like no jumps, just standing next to the tramp and going. Greg Heltz is crazy talented. He's his own worst enemy, but he's working through it, and I believe he's going to be there. Nathaniel Harris is a great handler. He's growing because he's an Indiana Pacers stunt guy, so he's still learning the difference of the tramps. Paxton Henry has been our guy that we wanted to be that all-out guy, but he's turned into be one of our most consistent shooters, which has been really awesome and encouraging. And then Fest playing stopper, that is also probably going to be our biggest weakness. And it's not Fest himself, but he just doesn't have the reps. And I'm still working with him on the timing and a stopper. I mean, you go watch the games, you watch Kevin Cassidy, Adam Hooker, George Burge, Dion, not Dion Brew, sorry, I'm mixing up. Dion Mays, thank you, landlord. Yeah, I've got too many Dions. I just kept saying Dion Bailey. Those guys would, especially Cassidy and Hooker. I mean, they just get their bodies in front of the rim, and people have to go through their bodies, and they just sacrifice their bodies. So Fest has the mentality to do that, but whether his timing catches up to where he's at, that's going to be our biggest Achilles heel early on. But I think he's going to grow into it as the games progress.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us on Bounce Off, Josh, and thank you to everyone listening at home. You can see Josh and the Lava throughout this opening weekend of SlamBall on ESPN and ESPN Plus, and you can check them out throughout the rest of the season, where they're hopefully going to get Josh his first championship.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. Thank you so much for offering me this opportunity.
Thank you for taking it.